Great. Well, welcome to the November 18th meeting of the Youth and Education Committee. My name is Katie Landa and I'm the chair of the committee. And tonight we're joined by Community Coordinator Brian Lafferty. And so this meeting is called to order at 6:33. Members of the public who are attending virtually, you can raise any questions or comments that you have through the Q&A feature of Zoom. Members of the public who are here in person, you can raise any questions that you have by raising your hand. If there's time following the committee's discussion, we'll field questions from the public. Do we have a volunteer to take minutes tonight? I can, you can do it. Oh, thank you so much, Kate. So we will now take attendance by roll call, and Brian Lafferty will conduct the roll call.
Thanks, Katie. Committee members, when I call your name, please say present. I'll announce that there is a quorum. Katie Landa.
Present.
Thank you. Kyla Thigh.
Present.
Thank you. LB Barroso is unable to join us this evening. Stu Desser.
I'm here.
Thank you. Kate Kennedy.
Here.
Thank you. Rabia Iqbal.
Present.
Thank you. And Sandra Leptoff and Kevin O'Keefe are not able to join us this evening. However, we have 5 of 8 members, so we have a quorum.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and is reflected on the screen before you. If there's no objection, we will adopt the agenda. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the agenda, please raise your hand. Okay, so seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from the October 28th, 2025 meeting were distributed ahead of time by the board office. If there's no objection, we will adopt the minutes as drafted. Members of the committee, if you object to adopting the minutes, please raise your hand. Okay. Seeing no objections, the minutes from the October 28th, 2025 meeting are adopted, and they will soon be available on the CV6 website. So in order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. Committee members who are here in person, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand and I will identify you so you can speak. Committee members unable to attend in person, if you have a question about committee business, you may raise your hand through Zoom and I will identify you so you can speak. All committee members, it is extremely important that only one person speak at a time so that members of the public watching at home can understand what is being said by each committee member. The chat function for committee members present via Zoom should not be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. So tonight's agenda is a presentation by the Children's Defense Fund and Youth Empower of their report starting to live findings of a direct cash transfer pilot for former foster youth in New York City and discussion of New York State Senate Bill S7291, but I understand that that's being amended, so we'll hear about that. Continued discussion of the potential relocation of middle school 255, Sauk School of Science, the chair's report, and then old and new business. So we will, oh,
You can go to
that's
the
it,
first
okay.
item, yeah.
Okay, so I'm so happy that tonight we could have Julia Davis, who's Director of Youth Justice and Child Welfare of the Children's Defense Fund, and Grace Tatum, who's Youth Action Organizer for Youth and Power, come and present to us about their experience with cash assistance for youth who are transitioning out of foster care. So I will turn it over to Julia and Grace. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm going to try and share my screen so that we can run through some slides together.
Thank you as well.
So Grace and I have been working together for 3 years, and it's usually pretty smooth, but I think we are going to just pass these slides back and forth. Does that sound good, Grace?
That's
Okay,
fine.
great. Good. So to start things off, I'm Julia Davis at the Children's Defense Fund, which you heard, and we're going to talk really about 3 things today. One, about what Youth and Power Transforming Care is and was as the first guaranteed income project designed by people with lived experience in the foster care and child welfare system, with funding available to people that experienced and survived that system, and now really being like the center of advocacy around this work. And we're going to talk a little bit about the findings of our research. What does cash do? Many of you have probably seen guaranteed income in the press or in other types of research. So we'll talk a little bit about what the findings are that are sort of unique to our work. And then we'll talk a little bit about a bill in the Senate in Albany. There is no assembly bill available yet. And we're going to talk a little bit about the amendments we're proposing to the bill. And then we'll close out with some opportunities. If you're interested in collective action, if you'd like to go to Albany or participate in cash policy development at the state level, there's some ways for us to do that together. So let me pass it off to Grace to tell you a little bit about herself and to introduce the collective.
Thank you so much, Julia. So my name is Grace Tatum, Youth Action Researcher here with Youth and Power Transforming Care. So basically, we're an intergenerational collective made of with different teachers, professors, policy advocates, people with lived experiences, using our personal experience and our expertise to help build and shift the narrative of this the child welfare system, basically. So we came together to help create our direct cash transfer pilot program, which was, as Julia mentioned, one of the first ones for New York City for youth transitioning out of care, ages 18 to 22. And so it's 100 young people who recently aged out of foster care in New York. They had to be out of foster care for at least 6 months, if I'm not mistaken, so we can just ensure that it's not like they wouldn't be signing out a kid just to get the funds. And we know like how the $1,000 that they're supposed to receive supposed to be no strings attached as well, and it was. So we just wanted to make sure that as we try to be as intentional as we can when we as we go along with this pilot program. So we also used, along with the being able to distribute the cash, we also use the different methods such as participatory action research. We use different surveys. So we use different methods like the baseline survey in the beginning of the first one to
Sure. I think you're.
You're muted, Grace.
muted.
Yeah, I think Grace needs to handle something, so I'm going to take it from here for a few minutes. So the
Okay.
research methods, as Grace described, are participatory action research methods, which were methods designed with the expertise of people that have lived and survived the foster care system, to design a research inquiry that included a baseline survey, focus groups, a survey really dedicated to examining spending in particular, and interviews. We also did a post-payment survey, and then we had another survey that looked at 1 year after the last payment. All of these research methods are examining the experience of the 100 young people who are receiving the cash. So this is really a deep inquiry around the sort of longitudinal experience over time of young people who were in the pilot program. We also have an independent evaluation. And in this method, what we're doing is looking at administrative data that the city and the state collects about all of us all the time, often without our consent. And in that data, we were able to create a comparison group of young people who were not getting the money, but who had been in foster care and were matched to the 100 young people in our pilot on different domains. So that what we could do is have a comparison group to look at the effects of cash without grabbing 100 young people and saying, hey, will you be in our study? But we're not going to give you anything. So instead, we did something called propensity score matching analysis. So this is an alternative to a randomized controlled trial. We share this with you. We don't know if you are deep researchers or not, but just to give you some context about sort of what the source of authority is of our data, and to kind of explain a little bit about where the findings flow from. Grace, I'm going to pass it to you to kick us off with this slide, the kind of overview of the report.
No problem. Thank you, Julia. So this report, well, starting to live was actually one of the quotes that one of our pilot participants, that was one of their, basically saying like how to express their, not to say the things like how to express how the money actually impacted them.
Mm-hmm.
So we decided to name it that because we was able to break up our findings around the 5 key parts of how the young people was being affected to each one. So one is this data fact right here said that young people are living on very little cash. So just think about it. Young people transition out of care with, like, you know how sometimes the system, they don't really have that much support that's actually helped the young adults when they transition out. And most of the time they are either just being pushed out without no resources. So just being able to we're trying to change the narrative about what it means for a young person to actually be able to survive and live and stuff. It's about being able to support them and what supports they need. So sorry, which one? Yeah, so our first finding shows that because one of the quotes says that because of the money, I no longer feel like I'm surviving, I'm starting to live. So that also is a testament to some of the findings that we have to how in the different ways, or it's just more than just giving you this on cash with no strings attached. It's more about just being able to have like more freedom and just being able to have more room to like breathe and actually think more than just, oh, what's my next step? What's my next step? Being able to like look more into the future and have increased their self-determination. And just to go over some of the data points, 95% felt increased control over their life decisions and ability to plan for the future. 85% experienced the sustained financial support as helping them take steps towards a career that is consistent with their desires and appetites. And 75% also reported that the payments helped them to find work that's more closer to the career goals. So again, just leading with the we also just leave with this part too, because again, it just goes to see like how it's very important to just give young people choice and the support they need to as they transition into this adulthood and independence.
That's so critical, Grace. Most guaranteed income studies are really focusing on young families or mothers of small children. So our work is really unique in a number of ways, the structure, the research methods, but really also the population. Here we're talking about emerging adults, 18 to 22 years old, who have left the custody of foster care, as Grace described, often without any connective tissue in terms of social connections, family connections. And they're living on very, very little cash and other resources. So this piece about self-determination, about decision-making and future planning is also really specific to this emerging adulthood framework. When our brains are still developing, when we're beginning to live independently, we're making decisions really for the first time about things like work and school and where we live and who we might start families with or build relationships with. So the research is really unique in covering that area. I'm going to do the next two slides pretty quickly because I think they're probably not a surprise to you. Young people who received cash were more likely to be working and more likely to be going to school. And so this really kind of busts some myths that cash somehow diminishes people's participation in the formal workforce or diminishes their participation in education and workforce development or training programs. Generally, the research is the opposite, and our data are very consistent with that. So young people make good decisions about how they use the money, and they also invest in things that are going to have a return on their own economic mobility. And we see that even during the 12 months that they were receiving cash, we saw a lot more stability in young people's lives, financial stability and housing stability. We saw many young people living in more stable places, being able to make better decisions about where they were live, making a decision about where they were able to live. And then they were using the money to manage what we sometimes call, financial stress in ways that can have kind of a long-term and a short-term effect. How did young people spend the money? Unexpected bills, paying for things when they had a reduction in their paycheck, unexpected fees, unexpected travel, like to go and take care of a sick relative or go to a funeral, unexpected medical events, expense, or unexpected loss of housing. These financial shocks are something in the literature that we're very interested in, because financial shocks, especially in a place like New York City that's so expensive, are the types of things that can put people into a spiral. It can cause a loss of housing. It can cause contact with the criminal legal system. It can cause a mental health stress. It can cause a family breakdown. And so being able to give young people a little bit of breathing room to kind of manage stress and manage these financial shocks are what the evidence is showing us. I might pass it to you, Grace.
So no, another one of the findings also just shows how the youth was able to increase their financial security and housing stability. We know that a lot of young people who age out of foster care have access to a number of public benefits, but it's also just more effective to see how young people was able to use their $1,000 for different essentials like rent, food, utilities, and healthcare. And just to add to what one of the another myths that the myth busting that we try to like erase basically, was that young people don't know how to spend their money or they don't know what to do with their money. And Julia just mentioned this, said that before, like we could clearly see where how young people is not only just making investments in themselves, but also with their community as well. And just being able to there's this help they're just able to make an investment in themselves, whether it's getting a new certificate or like going to school, helping pay for tuition or skill training, starting a business, being able to just pay attention and get like more healthcare or mental health support. There's so much where the youth are just able to do what they need to do and build for their future.
Something that's really unique about our research too is that we, did I skip one? Oh, I'm going to get to this one. One of the things that's really interesting about, unique about our research is that we also looked at system contacts, meaning criminal legal system contacts and CPS system contacts. And does giving young people cash reduce their contact with punitive carceral systems? To give you a sense, about 25% of young people in our pilot were parenting at the time they left custody. So there, when we're talking about reducing contact with CPS system, we're talking about 25% of our young people who were, sort of eligible to be having that contact. But the overall data is showing us reductions in those places as well, right? And that is also very much borne out in the research. Young people who have resources, who have more of these supports, who can weather financial shocks, who can be in more stable housing, who can find pathways to education and training, who can share resources with their family, with their friends, with their parents, with their social networks, are going to have fewer contacts with these punitive systems. And that is a huge savings in our collective costs when we think about how much money we spend putting young people on Rikers Island every day, how much we spend to conduct CPS investigations or to remove children from their families. And so the evidence is really clear that even from a study like ours, which is limited in scope, that this work is showing that we need to expand beyond pilots and move into permanent policy around guaranteed income for emerging adults, which is really where we are going next. So I'm going to ask Grace to tell you a little bit about sort of what our agenda, our policy agenda is that flows from this work. And then I can talk a little bit about how that's being grafted onto the Bridgeport bill, Senate Bill 7291.
Yes. Thank you, Julia. So definitely we basically co-develop, we're co-developing a permanent bill where we want young people transitioning out of care to just, so it could be a permanent unconditional cash program for young adults with foster care. So it will provide 5 years of financial support, which going to aim for $1,500 a month. So for 5 years, so to help support young adults regardless of how they exited care and ensure that the young people can access their support without having to go back to the child welfare systems. And also making sure that it's very critical to just make sure that young people with lived experience in the system have a role in how the program is being shaped and implemented. So that's why it's just really just uplifting in the fact that this idea here was actually like just co-developed, if not just our collective, but just the participants of the DCT participants as well, the young people. So to just be able to just make this a permanent support system and not just a pilot program. So we're also working with the Cash Alliance as well to make sure to just to uplift the importance of why this should be here permanently, and just the importance of how unconditional cash and guaranteed income is just really effective, and how that could just be a supporting resource for families and communities.
Yeah. And I only to add to what Grace said is that, those bullet points that she sort of walked through are the amendments that we are working with Senator Bridgeport on for 7291. So when 7291A emerges and we have an A print, we will let you know. But in the meantime, if something like our bill, or there are plenty of other guaranteed income and cash policy strategies that are flowing across the state, really exciting new policy development. And the hub for it is the New York State Cash Alliance. So if you care about the safety net, you care about cash benefits, you care about guaranteed income or direct cash transfers, or you're interested in participating in the political movement around that, you can join us at the New York State Cash Alliance, and you can click on Get Involved and start joining those meetings. You can come to Albany for an advocacy day to advance the platform that includes this bill and many others. And you can also learn more about Youth in Power by going to our website and going to join us. And then we can stay up to date on the work that we're doing, including our advocacy in Albany. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. I know we used almost half an hour of your meeting and that we may have taken a little more than expected, but we welcome any questions that you all have. And, we're happy to tell you more or clarify anything that you all are curious about.
Thank you so much. Stuart,
Thanks. I have three questions. First is if you could just give those of us who are somewhat ignorant of foster care a bit of a primer. What's the typical experience of these kids? Did they live in a group home? Did they spend the last 10 years with the same foster parents? What's the experience? What did they come out of? It's obviously not an adoptive situation where they're part of the family and they continue to be part of the family. Do they maintain a connection with the foster parents? How does this work?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. So foster care generally is a system by which the state decides to become the legal parent, either temporarily or ultimately permanently for a child. For young people who are eligible for our pilot, they must have what we call age out of foster care, which means that they left custody at age 18 or older, having had the courts terminating their legal parental rights to their parents. Most young people who are aging out of the system are living either in a congregate setting, meaning a group home, and foster care, meaning living with a family or living with an extended family member, like not your parents, but what we call kinship care, is much rarer. When young people leave custody and become eligible in our pilot, because they had their family legal rights terminated to have technically aged out of foster care, everything is possible. Some young people still have real relationships with their biological families. Some have relationships with their former foster parents. Some may have relationships with people who fostered them years and years and years ago, but weren't recently in their life. All of these different things are possible. We do have a very detailed analysis of the experiences of young people in our study that you can find at our website. And you can see there how many that were in congregate, how many were in family-based care, how many were in for 10 years or longer, how many were in for shorter periods of time. But generally, the majority of young people who age out were living in custody, most recently in a congregate setting, and were in custody for usually at least 5 to 10 years. After the age of 14 is generally where we see most people remaining in custody until they leave. So these young people have not been adopted. They've not entered into a guardianship or any other legal relationship with an adult, and they've had their family ties to their biological parents terminated by the courts. So in prior worlds of thinking about it, these young people are literally the ward of the state. Their legal parent is the city of New York and the state of New York.
Okay, my second question is, I don't have your literature in front of me, but you not only gave these children money, you also gave them support. That's really important, I think, but that does also, it's hard to disaggregate the support you gave them from the cash that you gave
Yeah.
them.
Well, I will say, actually, we did not give them support. So there are two different types of guaranteed income. There's a cash plus model, which is a cash and a program. And then there's a cash only model. And our model was a cash only model. And these are not children, they're young adults. So they're 18 to 22-year-olds, but they did get cash unconditionally. The good news is in New York City, young people can voluntarily join a number of different support programs that they are eligible to stay with all the way through age 25. So in our project, we decided not to reinvent the wheel, not to create an additional program, not to create an additional kind of like formal support service, but rather provide cash, invite young people into this inquiry with us, and really about movement building and about developing a campaign around cash, and then let them use the existing services that are available throughout the city if what they wanted was support on going to school or getting a job or getting mental health services, because there's a big program across the city called Fair Futures that's delivered through 26 different agencies that all young people who have foster care experience can go to all the way through age 26. So it's a great question, but I want to distinguish that our data really can talk about cash because we didn't provide a service component.
Okay, when I turned 50, anyone under 30 was a child, so that's my definition.
Understood. It's an important legal distinction that I wanted to clarify. That's all.
Okay, so you may find this tangential, but what's the difference between granting this money to graduates of foster care, people who transition out of foster care, and satisfying the needs of children who come from either dysfunctional families or grew up in poverty? Wouldn't they need exactly the same sort of support?
I'm so glad you asked that. Yes. So that's why our bill expands eligibility. So our pilot was only eligible if you met this criteria of having aged out of foster care, right? You remained until you were 18 or older. The rights, legal kind of family rights were terminated by the court. And so that is really only about 800 to 1,000 kids across the state every year. And we were like, that's ridiculous. There's lots of shared experience of poverty, marginality, family conflict, family struggle, so we wanted to expand that. So Grace mentioned that the eligibility is broader in our bill. It still requires someone to have had foster care experience, but it lets young people who went home, were adopted, entered into a guardianship, or otherwise didn't age out, get the money. But the big goal, and if you join the Cash Alliance, I think you will hear this, the big goal is really moving towards guaranteed income for much bigger groups of young people. And the strategy politically is to start with young people that we, as the city and state of New York, have said, you know what, you're ours. You're ours. And so there we start with this policy. But absolutely, the goal is to look at other young people and create kind of broader and broader eligibility. In New York City, there have been some other pilots that have focused on young people that have lived in housing instability or have come through the shelter system. So there are also kind of policies that are developing there. But I think you're absolutely right that there's some common experiences, common precarity, common vulnerability that unconditional cash could solve for young people. But this is where we're going to start.
Hi, if I can just ask quickly a question. Have you presented this to other community boards like ours? So that
No, this is our first community board conversation, so we would love feedback.
Okay.
No, it's great. One thing I'm wondering, one thing that community boards do is they write resolutions for elected officials or public administrators. And I think that they, are influential. So I was wondering, if this is something that you would want us to do for your project, like maybe to ask our state representatives to become co-sponsors.
I think our bill, I love that idea. I think our bill is not quite ripe procedurally, like in Albany, but I think what you all could do is write a resolution in support of the Cash Alliance's whole agenda. I think it would require you all to maybe take a little bit of a deeper dive, but that would be great. Our bill, it's just not going anywhere yet. We have to amend the bill. We have to bring it over to the assembly side. There's sort of more work to do. So I would say let's hold that fire for when we're a little further along. But I think a resolution in support of the entire Cash Alliance portfolio or agenda of bills that includes ours, but kind of spreads your influence around to some other policies and budget items and bills that are kind of closer to the finish line would be my counter proposal for you all to consider.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions from anyone?
Anyone online have a question?
If anyone on Zoom has a question, please feel free to raise your hand, or you can enter it into the Q&A. Question and answer.
Well, I think this is a great presentation for community boards.
Well, I actually, like, part of why it occurred to me when I was interviewing for the community board, so the Manhattan Borough President, I was paired with someone who serves on a community board who had recently aged out of foster care. So it seems to me you have allies already sitting on other community boards in the city, most likely, who would probably love to hear about the work you're doing.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think you've, packaged it very, very well, so it, really fits into the meeting format for the community board as well.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank
Grace, do you want to share anything to take us out?
Like,
Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Grace.
joining us.
thank you so much for having us here.
Thanks, it was great to meet both of you.
Yeah, thank you all for your work. And be in touch if we can provide any more information going forward. Hold on. Am I close? I'm not going to mess up the Zoom if I leave, right? This is your Zoom.
No.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you,
Thank
bye.
you.
All right, that was fun. So, the next thing on our agenda is the SOC school. Are you here for the SOC? Or? I'm leaving. Oh, okay, great. Well, welcome. I'm Katie Land. I'm the chair of the committee. Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming. Okay. Great. So, did people have a chance to read the letter that we got from the SOC Parent Association Relocation Committee? Okay, I thought that is a really helpful letter because they really detail, like on page 2, what their goals and requests are in a very clear way. And then, provide some explanation. So I thought that, maybe this is a good way to get in discussion. And the other thing, that I did was that, I sent an email to, Superintendent McGuire's office, asking if he could, come to the January meeting and discuss, planning for the SOC school, like what's happening, so that we have his perspective as well. And parents are very welcome to come too. Did you hear back from him? Not yet, no. But I just sent it yesterday morning, so.
Are you not meeting in December? Or we're doing something else?
We are, yeah, the December meeting, I invited a speaker who's going to come and really take us through the policy making and implementation process for education in New York City. So we have like a good overview on that.
So can we just ask, when did you guys last communicate with district administration?
I'm trying to remember the timeline, actually, if it was before or after. I'll check my notes, maybe somebody online remembers when those meetings happened.
What I'm really looking for is, has the plan changed?
No, so I think the letter that we sent to you is current. I don't think there have been any communications or changes since that letter. As we were talking about briefly before the meeting started, I think that the major update that happened this weekend or Monday was that the mayor is actually going forward and putting through the class size reduction mandate. That had been a little bit of a surprise from this current administration, that they were actually gonna go forward with the classroom size mandate. So the mayor has indicated that thousands of teachers are gonna be hired and they're gonna try to reach the goal of actually reducing classroom sizes.
With subjects to the next administration.
Yes, exactly.
I was gonna say, this is recent, so it's basically passing it for the next. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, which probably supports that. I would be surprised if Mayor Mamdani did not support the maximum class size. But who
Yes,
knows?
I agree. I think that seems to be in alignment with something he would do, but it is a question because there's been a lot of materials written about how schools that actually are in the most need for the classroom size reduction mandate may actually not benefit the most from going forward with this plan. So it's kind of controversial and there's a lot of question about equity.
I'm
So,
sorry, explain that. You,
Yeah, why not? Explain that.
you know, I think it has to do with resources and, so a lot of money will be poured into schools that already have significant resources and that might not translate to the schools that actually would stand to benefit most from having the classroom size reduction. It's counterintuitive. I think it may also just have to do with space issues. So a school that may really needs that to happen may not actually have the space for it to happen.
and Salk has no concern about classroom size. You're comfortable with,
Didn't know we have concerns, we have no space.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, also
Right.
I looked up, there is a website, I think I might have sent the link in my email. There's a website that gives information
On
on
the-
class size
Right.
and all stock is over the maximum.
It
in
is,
just about
but I'm
all of
asking as parents, do you feel that compromises their education?
So there's different feelings about it. I think we can speak personally and not, you know, for everybody. There's one school of thought that comes from, you know, we'd like to be competitive when people are looking at schools. They may be looking to schools that have the ability to reduce their classroom size. That may be very important to people. So there's an issue about enrollment and being competitive. On the other hand, Salk
We have done
is
well.
most certainly a school that is not a priority to have classroom size mandates implemented. So because the school is successful as it is with 30 kids in a classroom, we are not really the focus or priority to implement the law. Like that's not who is meant to be served by reducing classroom sizes.
So if this is perhaps a little too casual, but we spoke before about, you know, whether the school community, quote, community is important. What makes Salk so much better than many other schools? Is it the teaching method, the leadership, the selection of staff, the parents' involvement? What makes a difference?
I think it could be a mix of everything. I don't think you can pinpoint and say is this exact sauce that makes Salk what it is. So I live, I'm on East 65th Street. My zone school is Wagner, and both my kids could have gone into the, you know, not the regular class, but like the one that's for kids that have a certain, you know, ELA math score. But I chose to have my older daughter, who's in 8th grade, come to Salk just because we had a decent lottery number, because everything is based on lottery, and she could have matched at Salk. And, you know, the small school size implied that there would be a little bit more intimacy in terms of discussions with teachers and the school staff compared to Wagner, which has a lot more students. And I've just had a good experience with that I chose Salt for my son as well. And, he commutes every day with a small cohort of other kids who live on the Upper East Side in M15 Select Bus. And he just loves going to school. So I don't think we can pinpoint that, hey, it's the student board or it's the teachers. I think it's just the whole thing. Sometimes the puzzle just fits and makes sense. Right, so I think for us as parents, we just want to keep Salk. Would we like to have a smaller classroom size to, go with the mandate? Yes, but we just don't want to relocate or be forced to do something that we are not on board with. Because the whole premise of us starting off with what we did was because we were never kept in the loop of this decision to merge or do anything with another school. Right, it was just something that was sprung on us, literally, I think a week, 10 days before summer break earlier this year. So it almost felt like we were blindsided. There was no discussions with the Salt community from the parent aspect that took into place when, Mr. Kelly McGuire sort of made that decision. And we just felt that it was not in the best interest of Salt. And I guess more importantly, why would CD6 want to lose a school that is a good school?
Yeah, I mean, I think to that point, like, I'll speak for myself, like, the only thing I can see in this fight where we can be helpful is just that we want to keep resources within our own advisory board.
Exactly,
And that, like, and I wonder what the impact is on Clinton and on Baruch, if the school has, right, like, all of these students have to leave Salk, and then they choose to go to their zone schools, what's the impact on those schools? Are they then out of the mandate, or what the impact is there, right? Like, if several hundred students leave the school and go to Baruch, what does that do to the cost size of Baruch?
I
Right, I
don't
mean,
know.
those are the only two other middle school options in our community board. Person and,
I don't
Correct.
know for sure, but I do not think that Baruch could absorb everybody from Salk. Like, I don't think that's possible. And that's the only zoned,
right,
6 to 8 middle school.
right, I
within
mean,
the
that, when I looked, the other middle school option, which, Baruch's the only standalone middle school, there is the
Right.
Clinton school, I don't know if that's a lottery situation or what to
I
get into
don't
that.
think
And then there's
Clinton-
the school first, American Sign Language, which is probably.
I don't think
on the
Clinton
table.
is in this.
It's on 15th Street, right?
But it's not in this
It's not in that.
district. I forget if it's
No,
2
it's not.
or 3.
It's not, it's not in District 2.
It's a District 2, but it's not Community District 6.
Oh, I thought we
But
went
the
to 14th Street.
The schools are really organized as school district, like to,
Right,
like Salk admissions.
right, no, I
They
understand that, but.
Prioritize anyone living in District 2.
Right, but I guess I'm making it a little too simple, but like, right, because you're not in community board
Mhm.
6, but. If we were to say 2/3 of the students at Salk live within community board,
They actually
Six.
do, yeah.
and their zone's choice may then be Baruch. What is the impact then if that is the school that they have to go to because they choose not to go to
Right.
more?
But if Salk was relocated, I think the issue is not if it's in the community board, but is it, still commutable by the children who are already going? I think that's more.
Right,
of
we
like
want to
the
retain it within our
concern.
community board. Which would be commutable, right, if you're.
I don't think that's really a leg to stand on. I think the commuting district, the commuting distance and complexity, like that's an argument. But I don't think that you can argue to keep a school within a community district.
May I ask
I-
why?
Because
Yeah, that seems to
because
me
they're
to be the
school,
exact same.
they're school district.
Exactly.
So like the Salk school is a lottery school. Actually, anyone who lives in New York City can apply to the lottery, but preference is given to students who live in Community District 2, not in Community District 6. So the school District 2, which is much larger than the Community District 6. And then there's also like, I think, a 17% set aside for children from low income families.
I
So, okay.
would argue that losing Salk from this particular community district, not just the school district, but losing it from Community District 6 would leave this neighborhood vastly underserved. Because all that would be left would be Baruch, which is a zoned school. And I don't believe it would be big enough to accommodate the entirety of the Salk population.
Because they have their own issues with the class size mandate, right?
Correct,
Right, so
right, they're not in
imagine,
compliance.
they're not in compliance yet either, so to add children from Salk is definitely going to not keep them compliant.
And then, sorry, when you say community district 2, we're talking about the community board district, not the.
No, we're saying
No.
just the school,
School
DOE,
district, yeah,
DOE District 2. And then within that, there are subsets, but Community Board 6 is the Gramercy one, right? It's like,
Right.
I can't remember exactly the name, but like that's the stuff,
Yes.
basically the
Right.
subset that's within District 2.
Right, so it's
Okay.
it's a small part of the school district.
Okay, so it's within our advantage to actually keep it in that case.
Yes, I would
Yes,
say.
very much so, very much
The
so.
rationale for relocating, what is the reasoning?
Because the space that the school is in now needs to be taken by an elementary school so that they can achieve the proper class size. So those students need to relocate somewhere else. And within the larger DOE District 2, there is a school that currently is underserved by, or underserved.
Under-enrolled.
Or under-enrolled, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And so it can easily take on more students, so that's why they want to merge the two schools.
But they have decided not to do the merger,
The merger
right?
is
That's
on
off
hold.
the
That
table.
is what we.
Is it on hold or is it off the table?
So we
We
were
don't know.
told
Right.
that by, first Deputy Chancellor Isabel Demola, so we were told that as a fact.
Right, so, I mean, I guess. I think we're saying similar things, just a little differently, which is. You're looking to find a space that is in reasonable distance from the current space.
Yes.
Which would also mean it remains in our community board.
Yes.
Well,
And
not
with,
necessarily. So what if it is, I don't know, does community
just like
district,
you wanna stay on
two,
10th Street
is
or
it-
something, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
is it south of?
But that would be
It wouldn't
beyond
be-
like anything we could really advocate for in terms of finding a space, right?
Well, I think. I think what we can advocate for is finding an alternative space for us, for the self-school. I don't think we have to, limit that to finding another space within Community Board 6, within Community District 6. So,
Right, so if I may, the disadvantage of that suggestion would be that there already are, well, Kelly McGuire did suggest this, I shouldn't use the word suggestion because it was more of like an enforcement factor. I mean, he did say that we could move to Martin, if they space there, and that's not particularly helpful for us.
Right.
As parents and.
right, well, I think adding in the proviso that we want to move SOC to a location where it can stay SOC.
Right.
So,
Yes,
to maintain the current structure, staff, curriculum.
I do think that the community is very well served by having such an excellent school within the community, because it's such a family dense area, and I think we learned that close to half of the students actually live in the neighborhood, so.
But despite the
Right, but
poll,
where did the other half?
Right, there's no question that kids are coming from the Upper East Side and,
Right.
you know, to your point, anybody in District Two can apply and it's a lottery.
Citywide.
Well, right, but-
District Two
but-
has.
More than likely you will get it. in the district.
Right.
But you're right, anybody can apply. So yes, other kids are coming from different places, but when half are coming from the neighborhood and it's a school that's been in this neighborhood for 30 years, I think that speaks to, you know, how valuable it is to the community. It's also, I think, a huge question if Salk is moved to a different neighborhood. You know, we provided the statistics about need for seats in different areas. If Salk were to move to somewhere where it's not easy to commute to, which is, I don't think what you're suggesting at all. Like, I think you're suggesting it should be very commutable.
Right.
But if it were to move to some place where it's not easy to commute to, and that might significantly change the complexion of the school because of who would apply and who would attend and all of those things. So for example, like if the school were somewhere completely inconvenient to where I live, I wouldn't rank it in my lottery system. And then I would be left with only Baruch in my neighborhood as the choice.
So, you suggested the last time we met, I think, that the Morton parents are not interested in merging any more than you're interested in merging. But would Salk be interested in absorbing children from another school and absorbing teachers and it being Salk, but a larger Salk?
I think that's a really hard question to answer because I think there's a lot of variables that we're not being given, right? Like, where is the location of this new Salk? I think one of the things that makes Salk very special to me and why I picked it is its size. It's 360 students, and when you have a small community like that, you know, there's a lot that can happen and be different than a school that has a 1,000 children, which is Baruch. So I don't think any of us would be opposed to, you know, taking 30 kids from another school and welcoming them at Salk. But do I want to see Salk be
the same size.
1,000
Yes.
students?
I think
Not
we will
particularly.
So I'm gonna wander a little bit just for this one question. What's the characteristic that you experience in a small school that you don't think you'd have had if Salk had 500 more children?
So I will, again, you know, this can't be like a case controlled experiment, just because you can't be in a big school of 1,000 and then move to Salk and sort of say, but I could just, I could say, give the answer based on an experience that my close friend's daughter, who's the same age as my daughter, had. So she went to our zone school, which is Wagner, which has about 1,000 kids. And she is, you know, introverted, just like my daughter is, very much into education, you know, studying, the, you know, reading books and just like in her own head. And she was bullied in Wagner. And my friend just had a very hard time trying to figure things out with regards to the school sort of being upfront about it and being able to address that. My daughter, on the other hand, has never had such an experience, right? And I can say the only difference is that you're looking at 1,000+ children's school as opposed to a 300 children's school where everybody kind of knows everything. So, I mean, again, this is an N of 2, an experience of 1, but in the absence of a controlled scientific experiment, that's the best I can tell you. So I would loathe as a parent to have Salk become bigger than what it is right now.
I can, sorry, I used to work at the UN in that education sector, section. So just in general, and usually small schools, give more attention to the individual, to the student. There's more of a community feel, it's a safer place, you get, children rise more, and shine more in a smaller school. In a larger school,
They're
they get
lost,
lost.
yes.
In translation, I can go on, like there are there's lots of literature about the advantages of a smaller school for specific reasons.
So I can just sort of stretch this out. My daughter took the SHSVT and we toured, all the SHSVT schools, and she's smart enough and she was getting a score that would get her into Stuyvesant. But we went there and I was like, no, I don't want her to go to Stuyvesant. It's 3,000 plus. We ranked High School of Science, Engineering and Math, which has 500 kids, as our top preference. So, that going back to what you said, a smaller school just allows for a more nurturing environment.
And that is the conventional, that is not just conventional wisdom. I mean, lots of researchers are pushing for that.
And that's been our experiences. My daughter is extremely shy and introverted and went through elementary school with one friend, and at Salt, she now has, the middle school friend group, which I never imagined would be possible for her, but it is there because it's a small school and she felt comfortable, and they all really get to know each other. And I think that's important.
And I will say that there are a couple of things in the Q and A.
Oh, thank you.
So I just wanted to highlight that. Alexandra Marquez said that they spoke last with Superintendent Kelly on October 29th, if that sounds
Oh,
correct.
okay.
And also that Clinton is struggling to meet the class size reductions or would be challenged by the class size reductions. So,
Alexandra, would you want to tell us what the
Yeah.
superintendent said?
so, let me
I
promote.
will just say that our letter to you, I think, is from after that meeting.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
I again think that I don't recall the
We've
exact
not
date
been
of.
November 6th.
Yeah,
November
November,
6th,
yeah,
yeah.
so we took into account the meeting
Okay.
with Ms. Demola and superintendent.
Oh, the superintendent was there as well.
We had a meeting with Ms. Demola and then he wanted to talk to us either the next day or,
Oh,
something like that,
okay.
to sort of
All right.
debrief after the meeting. So that letter is up to
Up to
date,
date.
other
Okay.
than the mayor putting
Okay.
through the classroom.
Okay. Was the superintendent clear about like what are the objectives that he is trying to achieve?
I think his objectives are twofold. So one is very simple, solve need to home. So, he basically, he looked at a spreadsheet and thought he came up with a great solution until he spoke with us and realized that the two school communities
They're
are
very
just
distinct.
completely different and have different goals and different objectives and all of those sorts of things.
I
So
mean, at the risk of being blunt, I was in the first meeting when he had the Morton community and the Salt community meet in Morton. And it seemed that both schools were told that we'll merge, but your school will predominate. So this was the information that was given to Morton, that you merge and you predominate.
Yeah.
This was the information given to Salt, that you merge and you predominate, so nobody loses their individuality, but it was the same story that was spoken to both.
Yeah,
And it seemed very disingenuous.
yeah.
I just, if I may, I just looked quickly at the website, of SALT, and it's a science,
Yes.
which I think is
It's very
very
different.
unique and different. And I think, I mean, I don't have a kid that's school age yet.
So
but-
thank you for pointing out, so we do have close ties with NYU, which is right in the neighborhood. So like my son is in 6th grade at SOG, and they have like a mentorship program with NYU graduates, and he got chosen to be in that program, so, moving SOG away from these sort of relationships will also have a negative impact on everything that it's able to do right now for families and children.
And I think it's actually an advantage because in the US, science is not the thing, like everybody's about you know, schools are more about personality and literature and that kind of stuff. But having a science school within the district, I think is a highlight. I don't know if there are many others, but I'm unaware, but I
I don't
believe-
think there are,
As far as
we did research on it, we weren't able to.
There will be a
identify.
fun high school when that's part, but I
Yeah,
think that's years down. the
That we
line.
would like to share space
Yes.
and live with them.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, I think his objective was very simple. Salk needs a home and Morton is significantly under enrolled. So he looked at a spreadsheet and thought he had a neat solution to
Right, okay,
the problem.
okay.
He also doesn't, he doesn't have control over a lot of the different buildings that may be available to us because he is responsible for his District 2 schools. So for example, the Washington Irving campus, which may have room for us, is not really under his purview because he doesn't have a school within that campus. So there are buildings that are nearby and in areas that we would like to explore that he doesn't have control over.
Okay.
There is, I think, 6 schools in Washington Irving. Do you have reason to believe there's space there?
We do. Yeah, we do have reason to believe.
Do you want
that
to
there
share
is
it? That-
space. Maybe Alex can unmute herself and share her wisdom and research.
Alexandra,
Oh,
you're able
there
to,
she moved
I
on.
think she is a panelist now. If you can just unmute.
Sorry, I'm in the middle of doing laundry. Washington Irving, and according to Superintendent McGuire, he's saying that the numbers that we have found online should be pretty accurate, but they have somewhere around 400 to 450 empty seats. Now, we don't really know what exactly that looks like if those seats are in each of the schools or, you know, I don't think there's like 400 seats. I don't actually know what that would look like to go in there. And so we were just trying to get those answers. But yes, there are about 400 available seats in that school.
So we have all the questions, we just don't have the answers.
We were actually quite interested in something that came up in the larger community board meeting, I think it was last week. Which was that there's been a very long-standing resolution about the police academy.
That Jim mentioned about the police academy, but has that ever been, I mean, NYPD doesn't seem to want to give it up.
Statement, I
Yeah,
think.
I think that's people are exploring that. I think John is looking further into that.
It's right down the street from us. It's huge. I believe it's to be underutilized since the academy is no longer really actually located there
And
anymore.
to get in, you have to go through a guard gate and people in uniform. I think we should see what McGuire can share with us, and then we
Yeah.
can start to negotiate from there.
Yeah,
I did
Yeah.
start a resolution, which I would like to just hand out to you and, you know, we can all kind of like work together and then modify it however
okay,
you want, but I did take the time to just get something on paper so that we can at least start the dialogue about it. And obviously I don't expect it, you guys to deal with it at this meeting, but I did want to
right,
just,
yeah.
and I can send it
Yeah, we
electronically
can
as
talk about it
as
next,
well.
yeah, at the next meeting.
I tried to keep it pretty simple and straightforward.
And there's another Q and A in the chat from Kieran Stevens, who asked if Salk has been given a date for vacating, which they have not, because as we understand now, that proposal to merge with Morton is not on the table. So
Right.
if there's any.
Yeah, so there isn't a place to vacate to.
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
So the question in the Q and A was, has Salk been given a date to vacate their current location? And no, is the
No.
answer.
No, because I do think, it does still remain to be seen what happens when the new mayor takes office and the new chancellor is put in place. So there could be significant changes that still happen with respect to the classroom size mandate. And both PS40 and SALK are not priorities for classroom size mandates to actually be rolled out and implemented because they are such successful schools and perform so well. So they are not a priority. And so I think it really truly remains to be seen whether SALK would need to be relocated.
Can I just offer something about your questions about the location and why it would be important to keep it within CB6? The chart that was entered into the letter, I don't know if you've had a chance to see it. Some of the dynamics are that a lot of the schools downtown, so essentially like where Morton is located and other downtown schools, are under enrolled. There's projections that I found on the DOE site that it's going to continue to be under enrolled. We're just going to continue to lose students in the public school system. And so what is really difficult about moving somewhere where SALK may not work is that we could eventually be one of those schools that's under enrolled and facing these same problems. What we do know is that SALK works where it is. And I think that speaks volumes about like how it works maybe for like the students from Upper East Side, students in the neighborhood, just like where where it's located right now seems to work very well for families. Whereas a lot of other middle schools, that's not necessarily the case. Sorry, that was it.
So I'm a physician, I see patients every day in my clinic, and sometimes when they're doing well on therapy, and there's like a new drug that comes about, and then can I switch? And I tell them this, I'm like, if it ain't broke, why fix it?
Because you need to find another place.
So it's, no, what I'm trying to say is that, being soft,
Yeah.
working well. Right, so the onus should be on finding a space that allows it to be compliant with class size mandate without losing where it is in the district, without losing, its small community feeling. So that's to reinvent the wheel and try to make it bigger or anything else might not work out. This is a tried and tested model. Let's just preserve it and just find a better space for it.
Okay, so what next?
Can I just ask, what is the southern border of school district 2?
It goes all the way down to Henry Street, so.
Oh, it does.
It's a very.
Is
good
that
Basically,
result.
it's like the full upper east
Yeah.
side, all the way down to the
Yeah.
lower east side of Chinatown.
So
On the east side.
I guess we can talk about this more another time, but I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around like why if you found a great location for the SALK school where it could maintain its size and its staff and everything about it,
No, but
but
that's
you
not,
were on the other side of 14th Street, why that it wouldn't be in community board 6, but why that wouldn't be
no, but
a
that's not,
solution.
that's not what has been. That's not what
Yeah.
is being stated. Because, that school has its own, they have their own principal, they have their own staff. So how can you, first of all, you can't co-locate, we were told.
No, I'm not talking about a particular school, I'm talking about whether it has to be
Imaginary
in community
building on
district.
Fifth Street.
I mean, I think what I keep hearing is that they would prefer a location that is as close as possible to the
Right,
current location.
Right, but,
So sure, if there was something on 13th Street, maybe that would be a good
Right,
solution, but I
exactly.
think the idea, we're trying to push for the ideal, and the ideal is something that is like
Still
reasonably
here.
within the, near the current location.
Yeah, so instead
Which
of,
would be
could be 5 blocks down, 5 blocks
blocks up,
up,
yeah.
but like here.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly,
yeah,
right.
like the west,
I would rather say that.
Yeah.
Than like within community district 6, because that to me, I just.
And I think
The
that's,
reason is because we wanna
there's something I don't
change the
understand.
location. Not move too far, but it doesn't have to be in the,
And I
within
think
the
that's
border
great
of the
feedback,
community district.
you know, like, I think that's good feedback for us in the language that we use, like, for example, if we're working on the resolution, you know, maybe the language we use is more about like, you know, some sort of block radius or neighborhood, but to
Yeah.
your point, like, if it's, you know, on 13th Street and that's not, this is, I think that makes a lot of sense, but I think what we're all
Yeah.
saying is ideally we stay
A reasonable commute
Well-
distance from the current school.
I mean, I guess
Right,
I can't remember how it's described in DOE, but there's subsections of District
Yes,
2,
that is
right? So
true.
there's like the Chinatown subsection, the Upper East Side
maybe
subsection,
that chart.
and ours
that's-
is like,
Okay,
It's
so
like-
maybe that's. the
so that
language.
maybe that's the language.
Yeah.
That we want it to remain within the Gramercy, Kips Bay,
And I
subsection,
think
whatever. it is, I
there's a
guess.
table that we put
Yeah.
in the letter that
Yeah, subject,
describes
yes.
the different sub-districts.
Yeah, so
And
maybe that's
here and,
Mhm.
closer to the language we want.
right,
I don't know.
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that would make more sense to me.
We're in
All
4, right?
Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
we're
we're
in
in 4,
4.
Yeah,
Okay, I think that makes sense, thank you.
Right, the Flatiron, Gramercy, Murray Hill.
Yeah. But we like coming to CD6.
Well, I guess part of, I'm a new member, so, you know, I guess part of, I was just approaching this like from our perspective as a community board, what we advocate for is retaining resources and bringing more resources to our community board, right? So like, as we
True.
talk about this to a larger group, like, what's their stake in this? We want to keep more middle schools available to people who live in this neighborhood, generally. Right,
Yes.
that's our.
Yes, exactly, that's exactly right.
okay, can I just say that there's also like things about, racial and ethnic diversity in schools. So I think that when you're talking about like keeping it in certain neighborhoods, that you're treading like some difficult waters there, because, Community District 6 is, Black and Hispanic people are very, very underrepresented, in our district relative to the rest of the city.
But
So-
to your
I think
point,
that's true, that's
Sauk-
probably true for all of District 2 and
Sauk
Yeah.
is a lottery school, so
Mhm.
you can live anywhere in District
Exactly.
2 and apply there, so I think
Exactly.
from the perspective of diversity, I hear what you're saying, but I'm not sure that there's the same
the location.
impact as if we're talking about a zoned
Right,
school.
yeah, but I just think you have to be careful about, how it's coming up,
Sure,
across.
and we do actually have very good diversity numbers, I don't have them in front of me right now,
I mean,
but
if you see the both of us, 50% is immigrant ethnic, so I mean, that's.
Yeah,
It's
but
all more
no,
or less
still, even
diversity.
saw the, Black and Hispanic students are very underrepresented.
I agree that number is not very high, but I think Asian is extraordinarily
Yeah,
high.
well, it is high, in the community
Uh-huh.
district as well. So, all right, so move on, just, to old business. I was really hoping people would take responsibility for, one of the three areas that we're responsible for, working on the community needs assessment over the year.
People meaning us.
Yeah, yes, the committee members. Of course, we can also include volunteers, of the community. But, were you,
We can discuss that administratively.
okay, all right. But I thought, Stuart, with your interest in, doing an after-school program,
Mhm.
that maybe you really need to do a needs assessment on the availability of after-school programs for you.
We could,
So I was
we
thinking-
can discuss that. I have my own committee to deal
All
with,
right.
that's why I'm hesitating.
Okay, okay. Did you have, Kate, many areas that you have preference for?
I'd be more, it's like education, youth needs, or I mean, not sorry, like youth health, right?
Any area of youth.
Right? I mean, I'm more
Yeah,
interested
around the
in, I would
well-being.
say.
And,
they-
and then also the child welfare system.
Right, okay, that was it. Yeah, I'm more interested in education. I mean, children that are gonna get educated. But
Those
Okay.
three categories, though, they're not, those are categories that came from previous district needs, or you talk,
Yeah.
you just.
Yeah,
because
our-
we can alter that.
Unless well, what happened like in the last 2 years is that youth and child welfare were lumped together, but personally, I don't think that's the right way to do it.
Depends how you define
Yeah,
the category.
I think it would just be really good to have a needs assessment for our, community district.
You keep looking at
those
me
three
when you say
areas.
that.
I want to get you on board and everyone. But, I think that would be a real service to the community district to have a.
sure. I will say that serving on the budget committee, we are coming up with timetables and resources for each committee so that they
Mhm.
can work on their. Know how to begin, try to find the information that they
Right.
want to inform
But-
their needs assessment.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So,
perhaps that is helpful for people who are
Yeah.
thinking, I don't even know where to start.
yeah, definitely.
How about the people online? Do they have any preferences on which group they will join? Are they participating?
I'm open to any group.
Well,
I
thank you.
have kids, so youth, like the education is fine, but I'm open to anything.
Oh, thank you, Robbie. Kyle, how about the child welfare system? We need someone to take that. And by the way, I will help, people in any other groups with this.
So, Kyle, I don't know if you have any thoughts or.
No, all good here.
Okay, all right, okay, and then, new business is, I learned that there's a Freedom to Read Act that has passed both the Senate and the state of Senate and Assembly and is on Hochul's desk. And, it requires the Commissioner of Education and school library systems to develop policies to ensure that school libraries and library staff are empowered to curate and develop collections that provide students with access to the widest array of developmentally appropriate materials available. So it's, basically protecting against, parents trying to censor, the materials that are in school. libraries, which has been a problem in, CEC too.
Really?
Yeah, there was an attempt to ban a book called Our Skin that, was written for young children about, race. So, is anyone interested in working on a resolution to ask the governor to sign the bill? She has until the end of December.
We can negotiate that. It's a very short bill. It's not,
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, is anyone interested?
So I'm sorry, when do we need this by though?
I think we would need a draft. We,
Before the next meeting, which is
the next meeting of our
moved up
committee.
because of the holidays.
So wait,
Yeah.
Yeah.
when's full board next?
Well, full board, is on December 10th.
And we meet
Our
after.
meeting is actually before
Oh, it
December
is.
9th, because it was moved up because of that.
So we're one day before.
Right. And then.
Okay, so if we had a resolution prepared, a draft in advance, then it would be ready for full board.
And the bylaws do,
We just,
typically they specify a 3-day event.
the
but
draft
this
has
is-
to be distributed 3 days in advance, but it doesn't, that's not the final form, and we can negotiate the form during the meeting. And pass it at that meeting, and it will go to full board the next day. So that's kind of cool. Good timing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so the timing works for full board, if a resolution passed at the committee on December 9th, goes to the full board December 10th. Then it could be sent December 11th, that would be before the end of the year. So. But, yeah,
Sure.
All right. All right, great.
So,
So Stuart and I will work on it and we'll circulate it to people and to get your comments and,
yeah, and
Okay.
of course it can be workshopped at the meeting as well.
oh, okay,
Um,
okay.
So
Great.
we'll look for a draft before the December 9th meeting of this committee, correct?
Yes,
Right.
at least 3 days before.
So if the board office has it, say, December 3rd, that would
Okay.
give us time. to Send it to the committee.
I got an email from Sandy. She had met with Patricia Baraga of NYU Langone, and she said that NYU has a program where they give away medical models. They're having trouble connecting with the principals of schools in CD6 and have been giving them to other districts. So I recommend that we connect her with the PTA groups, and SOP would seem like a perfect
Yeah.
recipient.
Good.
So, do
What do
we,
you think?
yeah, should I contact Kathy? Yeah, I have
definitely,
that,
yeah.
okay, all right,
And if you wanna copy me on that, you can as well, Rachel.
oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. And, so at our next meeting, there's a woman coming from the Citizens Committee for Children to give us like an overview of how the public policy making and implementation process works for New York City public schools. What was that name? Citizens Committee for Youth.
For children or?
For children,
Yeah,
thank you, sorry. Citizens
Because
Committee
the
for
C
Children.
doesn't,
Yeah, CCC, yes. And then the other thing, oh, and then, also, parents contacted me from an elementary school in our area, the River School. They, want to come to our next meeting, So I said, yes, so they'll be on our agenda.
I'm sure they'd be welcome, but why?
Yeah.
They are very upset with some things that are happening in the school with the school leadership. They say that IEPs are not being fulfilled. Teachers are quitting in droves. They just see, are very concerned. And I guess the principal is a tenured principal and they don't know how to handle it. So
They're having significant problems with their principal. They go to the CC meetings, so they're on the agenda and we're on the agenda and that takes up.
okay. I noticed that a lot of children from the River School go to SOC afterwards.
Maybe because they're in the
Yeah.
same general neighborhood, I don't know, but yeah, I know
I
that
think about a third of them.
they've been having significant problems with the principals and are in communication with Kelly McGuire regularly about that.
Yes. And does anyone have any other new or old business that you want to bring up?
Okay.
You don't see that.
Sorry, the reason I actually showed up today is because Brian saw me yesterday as well.
Yes.
I'm trying to get to know how the community boards work, but honestly, for the education, I came because I actually had I don't have kids, within my family, we have a complaint about the school within, and I wasn't sure what's the best avenue. Is that something we can bring here? And it sounds like a yes, because I just heard that,
I think so. I get worried about, can we help? But yes, you're definitely, entitled to bring a concern here. And, you can either make an arrangement with me if you want to put it on the agenda, or you can just show up at a meeting and when we do our new business, you can put it on the table
Okay,
at that time.
okay, sounds good. I'm not ready to talk about it now, so I'll
Okay.
leave it for the next time. But maybe if I can get your email as well, and I can email you
Yes,
either way.
okay. Okay, great.
Thank you.
Great. All right, so, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Shouldn't.
Okay, this motion does not require a second. Does anyone, if there are no objections, we will adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
Actually, you can move on. Adjourn.
What's that?
You don't technically, you can, I know that's in the script, but you can move to adjourn on your own.
Oh,
Yeah, it doesn't require a second, unlike every other.
But it doesn't even, it doesn't require, I mean, the chair can make the motion as well.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so seeing no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 8:05.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Good night.
Kyle.